everybody, welcome to Lex Macula Presents in the Spotlight. We've often heard that everyone has a story to tell. And this series is our attempt to find those very stories in the legal profession. We hope to look beyond firms, job titles, colleges, etc. and find what inspires and motivates our favorite lawyers. So come join us and enjoy this episode of In the Spotlight.
Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to In the Spotlight by Lex Macula. Today I'm very happy to welcome Advocate Manasi Bhushan, who's a practicing advocate. We've hosted ma'am in the past twice, once as a judge for our moot court competition, the second time as a judge for our client counseling competition. And we've always been really impressed by ma'am's knowledge and, just her skills of professionalism. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing time and for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on board. It was wonderful being associated with Lex Macula. And again, I'm getting this opportunity. So thank you for having me on board.
So for the listeners who aren't aware of Lex Macula or our events, ma'am's been associated with a lot of other student-led organizations as well. And ma'am has been a real pillar of support for a lot of new initiatives that have started during the lockdown. So we're very grateful to have ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Saharsh, for such kind words.
So thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today once again. And thank you for being a part of this new initiative in the Spotlight. In the past, we've had some formal discussions with a lot of legal luminaries, but we wanted to have a sort of candid discussion as well to see what goes behind into being a successful lawyer and how young lawyers such as you start their careers. I hope this is a great learning experience for all of our young viewers. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you once again for having me on board. And I believe it's a learning experience for me as well. I am also in process of learning. It's hardly been 3 years into profession. I am a first generation lawyer trying to build a career there in litigation because I knew that I want to do litigation. And so far, so good. And I'm looking forward to having more learning experiences and a long way to go. So I believe the audience probably gets inspired by the end of the session to opt and continue that courage of opting litigation and not get scared. That usually the phenomena is that people get a little scared and skeptical whether to choose litigation or to go by the conventional way of joining a firm or probably say somebody who's established working there. So let's see. I'm waiting what questions you have for me.
Ma'am, I think that leads us right into our first question. So a lot of law students, as you say, especially when they start their careers and if they're first generation lawyers, they prefer to go into more secure corporate jobs. And so what made you choose this career litigation? Was it something that you always wanted to do or was it a sudden change of heart?
Okay, so this is a long answer, I would say, because I joined law. I thought I'll do law when I was in class 9th. Now, this is a frank story of somebody who's a teenager and thinking as to what career or profession you want to choose in life. So you don't get motivated with actual reasons for choosing a career. You get motivated and driven by certain, I would say now, very stupid reasons because the reason what I saw was one of my distinct relative was a lawyer and he was working in a corporate law firm and he had a very luxurious and lavish lifestyle. So when I saw him, I once visited his house and I saw him and I felt, oh, lawyers are very rich and this profession is going to be a very, very lucrative profession. So I will become a lawyer. And I had no idea what are the prospects in law. And I joined coaching for CLAT and then I thought I'll give competitive exams. I'll become a lawyer. Though I took science stream, science and engineering was a second option because, of course, you need to have plan B as well. So law was plan A, thinking that there's a lot of money. But when I entered law school and when I started in my internships, I started working in committees, I did extracurricular activities, actually learned law, then I realized money is not the only driving force for deciding what your career is. There are a lot many other motivational factors. And entirely, I would say, till my first year, second year was much of exploring, because I'm a first generation lawyer. I have no one to rely on, no one to join after my law college. So I thought that let me explore initially, let me work in every domain, and then decide whether I'm liking this kind of work nature and work profile, probably for the entire lifetime, probably for the choosing it as a profession. So by the end of fourth year or third year, I would say I had an inclination towards judiciary when I worked under a Delhi High Court judge. And I felt that judges are the having the spotlight, and they are controlling the entire courtroom. So you can actually depart justice, and you can actually bring a change in the system and do certain things which will add value. So I thought I will go for judiciary. But this was when I interned under a judge in the High Court, which is the higher judiciary, and not in the lower judiciary. So I thought I'll keep on exploring more, and then I was simultaneously working with other lawyers as well. So then I felt that litigation is also something which is driving, which I like as a profession, and not just in a law firm, but also under a lawyer. So that the kind of law firm litigation is there, and the kind of litigation which is there with the lawyer is very different. We can talk about it in detail in some time. So then these were the two things which I was probably hopping on, whether judiciary or whether litigation. In the last semester, I decided that lower judiciary was something which I could have explored right after law college. Would be little time consuming, because I'll have to train myself, would be appearing for exams, would be giving interviews in whatever states I cleared, then undergoing 1 year training period as a judicial trainee judge, and then I'll be presiding as a judge in any court. So I thought it might be little time consuming. Plus, there are lots of ifs and buts. So let me try litigation first, and then if litigation is something, if I don't get interested in, or if I get bored after some time, then I'll go back to my plan A. So my plan B became plan A after law college. And that's how I ended up in litigation. And I think I'm not at all regretting, rather thoroughly enjoying it.
Honestly, I think that's quite inspiring to hear, because a lot of youngsters do get quite nervous about joining litigation. Okay, let's start with something more stable. So, are you saying that judiciary is something that you still want to consider in the future as like a higher judiciary after you've had some years of experience?
At the moment, I am thoroughly enjoying litigation. So there are no other options for me at the moment. I wish to become, I am an independent counsel now. I wish to remain one such counsel throughout my life. Probably become a senior counsel, though these are very distinct dreams, which I have not really narrowed down upon, because there is time for that. If I wish to go into higher judiciary, anyways, there's still a lot of time for that. Probably by the bar and the bench, going directly from the bar to the bench, another, I would say, 10, 15 years minimum, rather more than that. And even otherwise, by taking an exam, so then also it's quite a lot of time for that.
Yes, there's still a few years of practice.
Yes. So I have not yet thought of what will be my end goal, but for now, I'm happy at the position, whatever I'm doing.
Yes.
Right. Sort of this came to me when you were giving an answer to Krisha's question. You talked about how in the first 2 years of law school, because law school today, most people go through the 5 year system, and 5 years is a long time. So in the first 2 or 3 years, people try to explore a little bit, work in research, litigation, commercial, criminal, or try and figure out everything. But increasingly, because the job market is becoming so competitive, people decide, okay, from first year, oh, this M&A is what I'll do. But in first year, people don't have an idea of what M&A is. And since you've been on both sides, where you've been an intern, and now you employ a lot of interns, how do you see that change, and how do you see the future of that panning out, maybe in the next few years?
Okay. So, yes, I myself have been in that position wherein I was thoroughly confused at one stage what to do, and whether this will be the right option or not. Am I doing the correct thing? Will I get the desired kind of income? Will I be at the desired position or not? Can I retract myself if I have chosen an incorrect path? Can I go back and do something else? And now, seeing students in final year, probably students of final year who are coming for internship, or students who have graduated, especially during lockdown, who are unable to seek any employment at the moment, if I ask them, what do you want to do? And they say, we are unsure, we are still exploring. So I would say deciding on such a early stage is not a wise decision, because that is based on the observations of somebody else. That is not based on your own choices and experiences. That's why I said, I, being a first generation lawyer, I thought that I would intern a lot. And intern a lot, I mean, I have taught in a coaching institute as well, just to see how academia is. I have worked in NGO also, just to see how the groundwork would be, just in case I want to go into policy making, or probably working in a political think tank, or otherwise working on legal policies. Conventional kind of internships, working under a judge, under a lawyer, in a law firm, in a litigation law firm, in a corporate law firm. So all of that I did, and then I made my decision that this is what interests me, this is what I'm suitable for, looking at my skill set, and therefore I will choose this over this. When students beforehand make a decision that just because there's money over there, or just because the lifestyle is very fancy, and then determine in their minds that this is what they are going to do, and ultimately when they land up there, probably for an internship or probably for an associateship as a full-time professional, they after some time get very frustrated. They probably switch to another field altogether. They probably regret their decision and then think of exploring options. So by then there is so much of frustration built up. So I say 5 years is a very golden period of time. Use it as much as you can. Don't frantically intern throughout your 5 years. Don't be an intern throughout continuously 5 years and not enjoy your college life. But at the same time, keep on exploring all your revenues so that you can come to a decision, at least narrow down on the decision and have some clarity in your mind. Present times, when there is a lot of competition in terms of jobs, in terms of seeking an internship, because I know right now in virtual internships, firms are not really giving work to interns because of the confidentiality, probably because students are unable to explore the option of going to the courts and actually seeing how the courts function because of the constraint of number of people entering in the courtroom. But I would still say explore these opportunities, because if you're not exploring right now, these 5 years golden period of time will go away, and then later you will regret that you did not explore.
That's very true, ma'am. So you're saying that in these 5 years, you should do as many internships as possible, and then later on decide on a specialization. Because I think you're absolutely right. The student gets really nervous just in the beginning, that how will I get a job? Because there is so much saturation in the legal field these days that they just stick to that one field that they decide early on. But later on, there's a lot of frustration in that.
That's true. And I'll just add to it, not just internship. I am not a supporter of complete internships. It has to be engaging yourself in a productive activity which will determine you, which will help you in determining your career. So that is what I usually suggest people, and I feel that worked for me at least.
And so I know that you've been a very avid reader during your law school days. But what other co-curricular activities were you interested in? What do you think? I think even legal writing you were really interested in. How do you think that has helped your career now?
So I was participating in a lot of college committee work. So I was heading positions there. So I was a founder member of ADR cell of my college. I was general secretary of legal aid committee of my college. I was student representative of the students council of my college. So entire 5 years, somehow, somewhere or the other, I was involved in committee work, because of which I feel today I have those entrepreneurial skills, which probably I would say at a very small scale I had explored those qualities, and now I am able to run my entire office by myself. I'm employing interns, I'm collaborating with lawyers, I have court clerk, I talk to clients, I talk to judges, during in the courtroom. So a lot of those skills are now being utilized optimally, which I learned during college, during committee days. Apart from committee, I was working on a lot of research projects. So I was getting involved in, say, constitutional research, wherein I was reading judgments, lots of judgments, 500 judgments in a month, and analyzing them, making a summary of them. So that helped me in understanding whether I like reading or not. If I'm a person who can sit for hours and read, probably not into corporate law, because I was not somebody who was interested in corporate law, but probably say in litigation, say constitution matters, say all the matters relating to civil, criminal, matrimonial, etc. So then apart from that, I was also a lot of into public speaking. be it working with NGOs, be it teaching in a coaching institution, teaching to students because I liked teaching. But I realized that this is not something which I would like to do professionally. So that ways, again, going back to the same premise, explore and then come and decide what you want to do in life.
Right. Ma'am, my next question would be: since the time I've been in law school, the importance given to academic rigor or academic importance has gone down a lot. Ever since I've come into law school, people have focused on more on, okay, mooting, other competitions. You find a good internship and you'll be fine, and your grades don't matter as much. But you were someone who did perform exceedingly well at your time at GLC, and you won the MC Chagla as the Memorial Award and scholarship, if I'm not mistaken, in your second and fourth year. So, how do you view academic rigor in law school? Do you think it's important? If not,
I am completely unaware of this trend, frankly speaking. I always thought students are still running after marks because at least in my times, I would admit that yes, I was a studious student. Though I was involved in a lot of other things, but I was focused towards the academia as well, academics as well, and I was a consistent topper. In my final year, I topped Bombay University, but that would have helped me in probably procuring a good placement because the law firms, the tier one law firms, at least in Bombay, so I did my law schooling from Bombay. So at least there, what they do is initial rounds of scrutiny are on the basis of your academics. So top 10, 20 students would get selected for the first round, and then there would be another round, a written test, and then there would be interviews. So top, say, 5 students would be going only for the interview, or let us assume whatever the number be. Let's say 15, 20 students. So out of the entire batch of say 300 students, only 15 students are landing up for qualifying into the interview. Those rounds of qualification was happening through academics as well. Another very important aspect of academics we should never forget is actually you are gaining knowledge. If you are studying well, if you are not just studying from marks perspective, if you are actually studying the concept, when you should study and when you should spend time during a semester, if you are studying and gaining knowledge, you know what law is in which act, so that tomorrow when you turn into a lawyer and judge asks you what is section 65B, he simply says what is certificate of 65B, and you are wondering which act is he talking about. So it is very, very embarrassing. Suppose tomorrow a client comes to you and says that I don't know what to do, how is this lease agreement to be made, and you don't know what lease is, and you are searching on Google lease agreement and which act should I refer to. So that becomes very embarrassing. So you should at least know. I'm not saying it is humanly impossible for someone to remember all the sections and all the provisions of all the acts, but at least have an idea that this domain of law is catering to these kinds of topics, and this is where I have to look up if something of this sort arises. This issue has to be looked up in this law. So that clarity should be there once you become a lawyer, once you become graduate from your law college.
The importance of book learning never really ends. No matter how much practical experience you have, if you don't have the basic knowledge of law, that's not going to be a very successful lawyer.
True.
Ma'am, I've noticed that during the lockdown, you've also started doing your own sessions of where you teach certain kinds of laws. How is that different from what is taught in law schools, and what inspired you to start these sessions?
Okay. So as I said earlier, I graduated and I joined a lawyer who had experience of 30 years. I was working with him since 2 years, and during the lockdown period itself, I thought now I'll go independent because I felt I had enough of experience and I felt confident enough to start my independent practice. Now, since I had a switch into an independent practice, at that time I had some time with me. Plus, students from the college approached me and said that why don't you please conduct lecture series for us, because college lectures were not really happening at that time. It was a very, very new concept of online teaching. I would say this is a blessing in disguise that being a young generation lawyer, I could easily accommodate and pick up as to how online teaching would be. So that was the primary reason. I had time in my hand and I liked teaching. As I said earlier, I had taught in coaching institute during my college days. So I thought, why not benefit students? So I started conducting online lecture series. Now, how is this different from college lectures? At least from my college, I would say it was not a monologue in the way I was teaching. So, for instance, I'll just give you an instance. When we were studying Indian Evidence Act, I did it on various law subjects. When we were studying Indian Evidence Act, what I did, I took a situation, a real life situation, a fictitious kind of situation. I made a situation, and then I taught certain sections, say from section, say admissions and confessions we are dealing with. So I taught admissions and confession relating to that situation. So that example continued throughout that 1 hour, 1.5 hour. And I kept on adding and deleting certain kind of making modifications in the situation. And then I kept on asking questions from students. Then are you understanding how is this admission? How is this confession? Is it relevant? Is it not relevant? Is it admissible as evidence or not? So those kind of practical learning I was trying to impart in my sessions, and towards the end we always had a quiz session wherein students would answer to the questions, the quizzes which I had made. So that ways I got a really good feedback from students. They said that they could understand how the law is actually applicable in real life. So
Right.
that's the difference I felt I tried to make in my college. In the college lectures, what we have generally, I feel it's more of a monologue and it's more of a theory. But having practical experience and then teaching practically to the students, relating it to examples in real life situations, that I feel is better for understanding.
Also, to be honest, yeah, the academic rigor thing, I've seen it a lot in our college at least. So, Krisha and I go to GGSIPU, with under GGSIPU, and I think it's been told to us a lot, at least by seniors, that okay, don't academics, it's fine, just get through, don't fail or anything, but just do good internships, do decent modes, and you'll be fine. And I thought that didn't make a lot of sense to begin with in my first year, because all our life we've been taught, okay, academic rigor is at least test basic competence to an extent.
Right. So it works for tier one law firms. If you're good in academia, it works in tier one law firm. Their primary scrutiny procedure is based out of your academic performance. However, in the interview, what you say matters. For that matter, if you're just somebody who can mug up and vomit it out in the papers without understanding, you won't be able to score well in your interview. So interview is the stage where actual testing happens by the recruiter. He will understand whether you have written whatever marks are your actual representation of your legal acumen, or is it just simply you had mugged it up and you had written it in the papers. So at that stage, even if you are not appearing for a tier one interview, even if you're appearing say for a tier two law firm interview, there if you are able to do well, and you can justify that my university in itself is so bad in marking, it's not my problem, or the general pattern of marking is not more than 60%, so that's not in my hand, but however I know the concepts, so then there are better chances of you getting selected. So knowledge is something what matters at the end. Marks is, I would say, ancillary, though they are important to some extent, but they are not primarily the main focus, should not be the main focus.
Ma'am, our next question being, it's sort of building on Krisha's question of how you've started your own lecture series and you're taking sessions. You mentioned a very interesting point of how initially, at least in the pandemic, a lot of colleges did not have online classes, because at times maybe the college didn't have the technology. Even a lot of our teachers aren't very comfortable with using technology. Just you applying that to what we've experienced all throughout the legal field, people becoming more and more comfortable with technology, a lot of firms moving to a hybrid model, part work from home, part office work. How do you see technology develop, or rather the role of technology growing as we go ahead? Maybe to complete work from home might be a bit too far, but have more and more hybrid models of courts and online courts becoming more prominent.
See, I, being a young lawyer, am completely up for such online working because I could accommodate and I could now adjust myself. Rather, I feel I'm more comfortable with online working than offline working. However, at the same time, I realize that there are a lot many lawyers who don't have resources, and even if they have resources, they are not comfortable that ways in order to quickly switch to another window and probably conduct an online session and be aware of all the nuances of conducting online, be it conferencing, be it classes, be it hearing in the courtroom. Coming to me personally, I feel it is very convenient. I have clients from different states now, outside Delhi, whom I've never met, whom I talk to through virtual meetings. We discuss the entire draft which is prepared by me, and then they give their final version through email. I again vet it through email, and then there is exchange. There are exchange of the drafts again and again, back and forth. And then finally, once it is finalized, I send him the final draft. He takes a printout, signs it, couriers it to me, and I have never met him. And he pays me his fee through online mode again. So that ways it has become so convenient. And even appearing in other courtrooms of other states, of different states, you just log in. Judge is there at the other end on your screen, and you are here, you are representing. However, it was just not possible to do that via previous conventional mode. Similarly, attending 2-3 different matters in 2-3 different courtrooms. I have one matter, say, in Saket, one matter in Dwarka, and one matter in Rohini District Court. All three in 3 different directions. Practically impossible for me to appear in all 3 courts on the same day. Wherein I would have ran around in different courtrooms, or I would have sought an adjournment in one of the matters. Now it is very convenient. So, as I said, it is a blessing in disguise for the entire legal profession, but this cannot be a correct statement for all of us.
I think we've heard similar sentiments from, I think, Advocate Jayant Bhatt, who we hosted earlier. Before joining our session, he was, I think, in 2 different courtrooms the same day, in different states. He also appreciated virtual courts on this ground.
But the flip side of this is that there is a lot of delay during the lockdown period and the pandemic period, because many hearings are just getting adjourned because they cannot take place in online mode. For example, the matters which are at the stage of evidence, in which cross examination is to be done, in which the client, the witness, has to stand in the witness box, the lawyer would question him face to face, would not want him to get prompted from some other lawyer, or would not want him to take help from some external source, wherein physical presence is utmost necessary. Those cases are not being heard online. So imagine, since last 1 year, in those cases only dates are being given, and no hearing, substantial hearing is taking place. So at the same time, there is a flip side to it, a drawback to it, that the pendency is increasing. But as everything has pro and con, we have to wait accordingly.
Since you've taken on a lot of new ventures during the pandemic, some forced, some you thought might be fun to try, how have you seen, as you said, you recently went independent during the lockdown itself. So, how do you see, if do you see COVID has given you a new direction in terms of, oh, this is now a possibility, or has it sort of pushed back a few plans that you had, okay, maybe I'm going to do this? How has there been a new direction, if there has been, or has there been a rather curtailment of plans?
I would say COVID-19 was a blessing in disguise for me,
Okay.
because I got an opportunity to become completely independent, firstly. Secondly, at the same time, I was simultaneously during that time handling court cases as well as teaching students. So I conducted 5 different lecture series on different topics of law. And the strength was amazing. There were 60 students approximately in each lecture series. I got connected to a lot of law students, and those connections helped me eventually in having interns as well. So going back to my professional career again, it helped me a lot, because at the same time I could easily connect with people, say on LinkedIn, or say on different virtual platforms. For instance, currently I have 10 interns under me. What we do every Saturday, we sit for 2 hours in the evening, and one intern is given a responsibility every week on rotational basis. This happens. We conduct an in-house session in which that intern is conducting a session on current legal issue. So he also gets an opportunity to thoroughly research on that topic, conduct a session for rest of the interns as well as me. I sit as a student there, and he is the one who's explaining us, and we are questioning him later. So say half an hour he'll be presenting, half an hour we are doing our brainstorming, we are referring to other acts as well, whosoever is thinking on whatever lines, and we are discussing what are pluses and minuses, whether this should happen, this should not happen. So in this way, the entire team is growing. How is the team growing? In turn, is learning public speaking. He is getting a chance to thoroughly work on a topic which is current legal issue. I, on the other hand, am getting a chance to learn on those topics which otherwise I would have not sat and researched and read so much in detail about. And lastly, there's team building happening. People are getting to know each other. We are getting to know thought process of other people. Sometimes I get inspired by my interns, the way they are thinking. They are more open minded. Probably I did not think on that avenue. So all in all, it's a lot of I would say value addition to all of us. So it has rather pushed me to make more plans and move in certain direction and have a goal for vision has increased further.
Right. And I think that's a great way to learn public speaking, and especially you get to improve on your research skills as well. So I think that's a fantastic method that
And
you.
to be very honest, I don't know about Krisha, but I've never had any internship which been so forthcoming in the sense that okay, everyone will take time out of their Saturdays, because Saturday towards the end half is usually an off day. Like okay,
Yes,
we'll spend 2 hours, and it's more of a group discussion slash knowledge gaining session. So that's
yes.
a really great initiative, to be very
Yes.
honest, and not one that I've heard of prior to this. If I'm being honest.
In all of my internships, I'm just given below ye kaam karo and then I'll give you feedback. So this is a
Yeah.
fresh perspective that I've never heard of before. So that's really
Yes.
great.
Yes. Interestingly, in those sessions, we also discuss about the assignments which were done by the interns throughout the week and the work allocation for the upcoming week. And then I give them feedback. And if they have any suggestions, so sometimes interns also say me that this is going wrong or you can do this in a better manner. So I have to suppose I have to conduct a session, say somewhere else. So I will give them an idea. I am thinking on these lines. How do you all think? And then they can give their inputs because they are students. So it's more of I role and responsibility is given to the intern is of some level. I don't just treat them as just like interns, you have to do this and just get back to me. It is more like a responsible role which they have to, and I'm happy and I feel I'm very lucky to have good people as my interns, and they are also valuing this internship and they are not just there for the sake of getting a certificate.
And I think the interns must also feel motivated to have an advocate who's so empathetic and who's a pretty young lawyer and who can understand what they want out of an internship, not just the mechanical work, but also more interactive and to have better public speaking skills. So all of that is something that every law student wants, and it's a blessing to have an advocate understand that. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that answer. Ma'am, you had interned with Honorable Justice Geeta Mittal during your school days, if I'm not wrong. And something that she recently said has really stuck with me. She has questioned the glass ceiling that exists in the field of law. She's mentioned that 30% of only 30% of law firms have women partners. Out of the 673 sitting high court judges, only 73 are women. There have only been 8 women Supreme Court judges in the 70 years that it has been established. So, have you ever experienced that there's a glass ceiling in the legal community? And have you faced any struggles as a woman, or have you not?
When I think about this, I have mixed of thoughts on this. Sometimes I feel the clients which are coming to me, they see I am a fresh lawyer because obviously from the appearance, from the way I talk, it's not like a senior advocate, not that kind of accent, not that kind of way of talking. So obviously they can very well make out that this is a fresh lawyer as well as a woman. But still they are trusting me with their matters, and they are coming to me and they are having faith in me that I will do their matters well. So when I see this aspect, I feel probably no, you should not think on these lines. But at the same time, there have been instances, so I'll share one or two. One being that there was a batch petition in which we were seeking impleadment. Impleadment is something that already a matter is going on. You also want to become a party in that matter. So you are not yet in that matter, but the matter had been going on, say, for 2 years, and you realize that you also have to become party to it because you are also related to this matter. So you seek an impleadment in the matter. So I appeared before the judge. There were other lawyers also who were seeking similar kind of relief from the court that day. But judge grilled me only, asking lots of judgments and asking, why are you saying this? Why at this stage? Do you have any judgment? Do you have any judgment of Supreme Court? Do you have any judgment of, this was before NCDRC, National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. So do you have judgment of NCDRC? Why on this aspect? Why not on that aspect? And for 20 minutes, I had to satisfy him, though I was well prepared. I had to satisfy him with lots of judgments, and this was an online hearing. I had to share the screen and I show him the highlighted portions and do the arguments well. And after me, there were two more lawyers who just simply said that we want similar relief, and he granted them the relief. Now, I don't know if I was first in order or it was because he wanted to test my knowledge, but there have been certain instances when you feel that probably you were targeted, or probably it was there was a prejudice against you wherein the other person thought that you would not know, and then when he tested you and you could stand on his test, probably then he got satisfied. Or for instance, in criminal matters, sometimes when you go to a police station, there is already a frown, I feel, when you enter the station, and the police officers are already prejudiced that this woman is here to create trouble. Whereas a male lawyer would enter the police station, probably those officers would not think in that manner. So there are certain times when you feel that there is already a prejudice existing against you, which in wherein you have to prove yourself. But I believe it's not just for women, it's for, it can be religious also, it can be caste dominated, community dominated. So I would say playing a victim card is not the solution here, but be super ready, be extra alert, and be extra prepared for your case is the solution here. So that ways I will take it. If that happens with me in future as well, I will take it in a positive spirit, and I'll say, okay, fine, that helps me in preparing better for my matter. So I take it in that spirit, because otherwise negativity will seep in, and who knows what, I mean, what your thought process starts with. So yes.
Thank you so much for that answer. I think it's absolutely true that even whatever situation you are in, and if it is intentional or if it's not, there's no choice other than to deal with it.
Right.
I think now we're coming to a sort of section that we hope becomes a constant in this in ITS. That is, we wanted to ask you if there's any book or material or an online video or a podcast or anything that you find really inspiring. It may not be law based, it may be something related to politics, history, something even outside of anything that commonly we understand as academic, that you find inspiring or that drives you, or you just want to recommend to anyone. What would that be? Any book, show, podcast, anything out there in pop culture?
I'm definitely not going to recommend any book, because a lawyer has to read lots of books and commentaries and judgment.
Yeah.
So by the time your day finishes, I was a person who used to read a lot of novels during my college days and school days, but I believe now I've stopped doing that, because I frankly do not have time after the entire hectic day to go back to a novel again. Sometime, probably once in a month or once in 2 months, I do that. However, I like a lot of sports activities, and any activity which is dealing with regard to your physical activity. It can be cycling, it can be trekking, it can be dancing, it can be jogging, it can be walking. So I, as my stress buster, what I do is I constantly involve myself with something relating to physical activity. During lockdown, I was doing a workout at home. Now after lockdown got lifted and things started coming back to normal, I realized I should not go to the park, because there are a lot of people walking without mask and you are skeptical. So I bought a cycle and I'm cycling these days. Otherwise you can always dance. Before lockdown, before COVID-19, I was jogging every day. So that physical activity, I think, rejuvenates you. You are not feeling negative, you are not feeling frustrated, and you are up with an energy to take the entire burden and the entire day with a positive spirit.
Now, I think 2020 has been a very stressful year for everyone. And even though it was supposed to be that your work will reduce because there isn't that much happening, everyone's working late and late and their stress levels are increasing. So I think some stress busting activities are a must. Ma'am, are there any hobbies that you picked up during lockdown that you wouldn't have done otherwise?
Binge watching, I would say. I mean, otherwise you don't get time to binge watch, but binge watching was something I picked up first. Second, I picked up lot of eating and putting on a lot of weight. wherein I was very conscious of exercising every day. But during lockdown, eating a lot of junk food, having no count on your the diet, what you are eating. So that is not a hobby which I would like to continue with.
Hey, ma'am. So, okay, just continuing that. What is your favorite show that you binged during lockdown?
Favorite show I binged during lockdown. These days, I'm watching This Is Us.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a
on
family
Hotstar.
drama.
Yeah, that's a
It is
really
Yes.
not
good one.
something I have to uplift your spirits too much after a point.
True, true, true. That's true. But I feel it's a very emotional kind of series. So it's nice. Before this, I was watching a Good Doctor, The Good Doctor. There is an autistic guy who's a doctor. uh, I think last year I was watching Suits from season 1 to season 10 because I never watched Suits during my college life, despite a lot of recommendations. But last year I was been watching Suits. But this year during, 2020, was a lot of binge watching, which shouldn't have been there. But I feel once in a while it's okay.
And I think that was the case for everyone. I think we all relate to that. I think that brings us to the end of our session. What a nice note to end it on. Thank you so much, ma'am. I think
Thank you so much,
it was
ma'am.
a wonderful session. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on board. Looking forward to collaborate again sometime in
Yes.
future.